Try saying the word helps out loud, paying close attention to the final sound of the word. Helps. After that, say the word crabs out loud, again paying attention to the final sound. Crabs. After getting over the embarrassment of talking to yourself, especially if you're in a crowded place, what did you notice about the final sounds of these words? If you said that they are different, you're absolutely correct. In helps, the final sound is pronounced like you would expect the letter S to sound. However, in crabs, the ending should have sounded more like a Z. The reasoning for this change can be found through the use of phonology, which is the study of speech sounds and how they change depending on certain situations or placements in syllables, words, and sentences. You may have also heard of something called phonetics, which is the study of speech sounds as they stand in isolation. The key difference between phonetics and phonology is that phonology is more focused on how speech sounds change and behave when in a syllable, word, or sentence, as opposed to when spoken in isolation. One of the main components of phonology is the study and discovery of phonological rules. Rules are the way phonologists predict how a speech sound will change depending on its position in various speech environments. For example, the final S sound in helps and crabs follow a simple-to-understand phonological rule. In these words, the S sound changes depending on what speech sound immediately precedes it. Let's take a second and speak the following words out loud, paying close attention to the final S sound and the sounds immediately preceding it. Hint: put 2 fingers on your throat as you pronounce the final sound and the sound immediately before it. See if you can notice what happens. Helps, crabs, sits, looks, words, gloves. Again, recover from whatever embarrassment you might feel about talking to yourself, now with the added activity of touching your throat as you spoke. Good? Okay. You may have noticed that in the words crabs, words, and gloves, your throat vibrated as you said the final sound and the sound right before it. This means those sounds are voiced, but that's a bit too complex for this introduction. However, in the words helps, sits, and looks, your throat did not vibrate as you said the final 2 sounds. If you noticed this, then guess what? You are now an amateur phonologist because you just discovered your very first phonological rule. This rule basically states that depending on the preceding sound, S sounds at the end of the word will either be voiced, make your throat vibrate, or voiceless, no vibration. There are many phonological rules for every language spoken on Earth. These rules govern the behavior of speech sounds in any part of a word or sentence. The final S rule is but one example of a rule. For another example, let's look at these words and think about how you would say them when speaking quickly or in full sentences instead of in isolation. Getting, going, hitting, driving. All of the final sounds in those words should be the G sound. However, when spoken quickly or in conversation, the final G sound gets deleted. Those words would then be pronounced as gettin', goin', hittin', drivin'. While not every English speaker follows this rule, many do. Phonology is the study of speech sounds and how they change in specific contexts or sound environments. It differs from phonetics, which is only concerned with speech sounds in isolation. Phonologists often seek to discover phonological rules that define how speech sounds change depending on their positions in syllables, words, and sentences. A few examples of these kinds of rules are the final S sound and G deletion. Now that you've been introduced to phonology, you can pay extra close attention to the way everyone speaks, which will in no way make your head spin at all.